Well, folks, the All Blacks, not the most convincing performance you'll ever see, but pretty bloody good from Japan. Had us on the edge of our seats right through till the 80th minute. 31 points from Japan, 38 from the ABs. We'll go through some key events and stats. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how this game went. If you're in the States, man, Flow Rugby's got all the November games on. Check the link in the description if you want to watch them. Good crowd in Japan, sold out crowd, 60,000+ people, and they were treated to a bit of a spectacle, weren't they? Wasn't supposed to be this close. I think the bookies had it by close to 30 odd points, didn't they? Much closer than that. I mean, to be fair, it was a disrupted start. The All Blacks lost Dane Coles before the kickoff even happened. So Taukei'aho had to start. That's not a bad thing from an All Blacks point of view. And like the linesman was having issues with his microphone, so slow start. But once the game actually got underway, it was kind of tentative. A fair bit of kicking from both sides. Mo'unga putting a lot of boots of ball for the All Blacks. The midfielder Riley for Japan putting a lot of little grubbers through. It was Japan, though, who had the first line break of the game. Tatafu looking pretty dangerous. All Blacks, though, by 10 minutes were maybe starting to look the better of the two teams. They had a 5-metre scrum. So Tutu had gone pretty close, but ended up knocking it on, giving Japan a chance to exit. But after all that good play, Japan conceded their first one. The All Blacks scored their first one. So from differing points of view, it's a very different try from the All Blacks. It's Taukei'aho magic again. He just, ball in hand, is such a unit, beats a defender and sets up a pretty easy try for Brodie Retallick. It's like beat defender, one pass and boom, you're done. For Japan, that's just a one-on-one failure, which kind of collapses the whole defensive system. So very different points of view for that try, but for the ABs, they're on the board, 7 points to 0 lead. A bit of loose passing from the All Blacks potentially could have given Japan their first points when they were looking to spin the ball wide, but then like Caleb Clark ends up dropping, well, he puts a kind of a bad pass, and the All Blacks guys don't pick it up first. And it looks like the winger Fifita for Japan, if he picks that up, probably goes in for a try, but he ends up knocking it on too. So a missed chance for them. And when you look at a game like this, man, it's those kind of 50-50 chances that you look back on and maybe wish had gone a different way from a Japanese point of view anyway. Japan did opt for 3 points on like 13 minutes when they had a penalty pretty much straight out in front with only 7 points behind at that point, so you certainly don't blame them. That one all kind of goes back to Sevu Reece not kicking it properly. He kicked it out on the full. So, basically mistake made from the All Blacks and punished by the Japanese. So 7 points to 3. Like I mentioned, the game's been pretty tentative. We did see a proper bit of magic from the ABs on 22 minutes. When I mentioned Mo'unga's been kicking the ball a lot, he puts this nicely weighted kick through for Braden Ennor, who gathers pretty clean. He's pretty much unopposed. Manages to go over into the Japanese in goal, but I think it's Matsushima and maybe Yamanaka, like the winger and the fullback. They managed to stop him from grounding the ball. So, bit of magic attack, stopped by some really desperate defence, so good play. But then the All Blacks get the score anyway a couple of minutes later. Like Japan exit, All Blacks go straight back down the other end. Great hands, like Christie to Mo'unga to RTS, who gets it to Ennor. Ennor is able to go over for the try in this case. The TMO flagged it up for a forward pass, and to be honest, it did look like, from the view we had on TV, that RTS took it in front of Mo'unga. The one-handed pass looked forward, but the ref's saying it's not out and out forward. Like, it's not conclusive. I can't help but wonder if the refs have been given instructions about this, because I've seen it a couple of times. I've seen it at the Women's World Cup as well. Sadly, both times with New Zealand being the beneficiaries of it, so it adds fuel to the fire about the All Blacks getting the favourable calls. But it did look a bit dodgy. Like, your gut feel said, looks like RTS is in front. But the ref said it wasn't conclusive, so he awarded the try, despite the fact that the TMO had flagged it up. So 14 points to 3. AB's looking all right. And then the AB's pull away 21-3 with maybe one of their best tries of the game. It's a set play. It's a line out that goes over the entire forward pack. It goes like 15 metres to RTS. I'm talking about Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in case you guys aren't aware. And he just puts in a pretty slick offload. He's got that league background, so his offloading game is phenomenal. Offloads it to Reese. Reese is clear. He puts in a fend at the end. But 21-3. It's looking like the All Blacks are going to run away with this game at that point. 21-3, I'm not expecting come 80 minutes, this game is going to be, within a score. All Blacks should run away with it, right? I mean, even though it's not their first team, like they're playing a few kind of inexperienced guys or guys who haven't had any game time for a wee while. The All Blacks should run away with this, where they're pretty much 3 tries ahead. Himeno maybe has a big part in stopping the momentum because he wins a turnover when the ABs are really on the front foot. That turns into some Japanese position. That turns into some Japanese attack. They're getting the ball down the right wing. They kick it forward. Fifita makes a bit of a meal of it. And this man, Yamasawa, the 10, he's able to use his footballing skills to get the ball over the line. And the first try of the game for Japan. So a broken play. Japan, 10 points on the board now with the conversion. So 10 points to 21. Still comfortable enough lead for the All Blacks, but certainly a path back into the game for Japan. And they get a second one before halftime. Maybe Japan's try of the game, probably in terms of just the sheer skill. Riley, that man, the midfielder out on the left wing this time, his offload to Nagare is something pretty special, the scrum half. So 21-17 at halftime. That's game on. That's absolutely game on. So good 5-minute period plus from Japan. Basically from that Himeno turnover, to put the game, which was looking dangerous for them, to really shift that momentum back in their favour. Run meters at halftime was 189 to 271, so the All Blacks have had the better of that. The territory's pretty even, but the All Blacks have had the possession. The Japanese have had to make a lot more tackles, but the All Blacks' defence is at 67%, like tackling completion rate, which is really low. Even a Super Rugby team would look at that and go, that's atrocious, whereas the Japanese are at 87%. Defenders beaten as 12-11, with the Japanese having more, despite having less pill. 15 kicks from the Japanese in the first half, 17 from the ABs, which is quite a lot for one half of rugby. Second half, though, the All Blacks come out, and basically it's similar to the Taukei'aho try in terms of Caleb Clark just being able to beat a man one-on-one. It's a defensive kind of collapse that comes from basically one broken tackle. I mean, when he gets flying, he's genuinely a hard guy to bring down. So his try makes it 28-17. Those kind of butterflies in the stomach from the All Blacks, I guess, All Blacks fans maybe, from the Japanese comeback in that first half, maybe allayed a wee bit, but then the All Blacks line-out starts to go a bit rotten, and they're just knocking it on. Not clinical, looking rusty. The All Blacks spend a fair bit of time in the Japanese 22. Eventually, they opt, when they get a penalty, for a scrum, because they don't trust the line-out by this point, because it's just been misfiring. And who steps up again? It's bloody Himeno with another turnover. He's world class, that guy. He is absolutely. I mean, he gets on the board later, but defensively pulls Japan out of the fire once again. And then, like I said during the live stream, that Japan need to score next to get back into this game, and then the All Blacks. It's another kind of muck-up, eh? Finlay Christie with the box kick, and Warner Dearns not only charges it down, but manages to regather it before it even hits the ground. He basically gets hit in the face or the arms by the ball and just manages to regather it in the moment, which is a hell of a skill set once you've just been trying to charge the thing down. And he just guns it for the line. So suddenly, a bit of defensive pressure, and the Japanese converted that into 7 points. So 24-28, man. That's game on. The All Blacks, I guess, credit to them. They back themselves when they go down the Japanese end, because it's a game where you maybe take the 3, but they don't. They opt for touch, and it ends up with a few phases and Satutu managing to spin over out of a Japanese tackle to go over. So that's 35 points on the board for the ABs. That's the end of their scoring, bar the penalty at the death, when they could have just kicked it out. But they kick a penalty to at the death, the ABs, to make the scoreboard look a little bit more flattering. So that's on the hour mark. So we're looking at the final 20 minutes. Basically no scoring from the ABs. Not helped by the fact that Brodie Retallick gets a red card for a kind of careless clean out. He, like the Japanese guys over the ball, and he just goes in too low shoulder to the head, it was always going to be red. Justin Marshall wanted it to be yellow, but I don't think he's living on the same planet as anybody who's been watching rugby in the last 12 months, man. That's pretty much a red card all day long. So, don't know what's going to happen with his tour. I would imagine he goes back to New Zealand. But, yeah, red card for Brodie. And the All Blacks got 15 minutes to play with the man down. What are the Japanese going to do from that? Well, they give it some width, man, as they should. They got the extra man. They're a team that loves to play the passing game traditionally. They do give it some width. Matsushima goes close, but ALB comes off the bench and puts in a pretty bloody good try-saving tackle on him. Mo'unga gives away a pretty soft one for not releasing when he's got the ball. He gets back up after being tackled, so it gives Japan a chance down the All Blacks end. Can they convert from it? It takes them a while, but on 78 minutes, who else but bloody Himeno? After a line out and some phases, Himeno manages to go over to make it 35-31, which is game on with a minute and a half to go. I do feel like they were kind of stifled a little bit by the fact that they got the try, they took the conversion, they go back to halfway, they're getting ready for the kickoff, and the TMO is like, wait a minute, I want to have another look at that. I hate the slowing down of the game. They go back to make a look at Himeno, whether Sam Cane managed to dislodge the ball before Himeno got it down. Again, similar to the first try, the ref's like, not conclusive, so stick with the on-field decision. So it just took the sting out of it, man. The All Blacks had a bit of a chance to compose themselves. So basically, Japan from the kickoff need to go length of the field. A loose pass means they either go up even further, and they can't get it done. Eventually, the All Blacks win a penalty when the Japanese don't release it, and they kick it to make it 38-31. So the scoreboard, as I mentioned, looks a little bit more flattering with that final penalty, even though 38-31 still a pretty close game, isn't it? Much closer than I think most of us predicted. But yeah, man, Japan defensively really played well. 173 tackles to the All Blacks 91. They finish at 86%, the Japanese. The All Blacks 77% is an improvement from the first half, but still pretty poor. Defenders beaten 27-29, so pretty close, man. And Japan only had 38% possession. That shows you kind of how effective the Japanese ball carriers were, man, or how poor the All Blacks guys were at times on defense. The fact that the defenders beaten numbers are pretty similar, but the All Blacks had a lot more ball. Penalties conceded 13 by the Japanese, 6 by the All Blacks, so that's one area that helps kind of keep the All Blacks in front, I guess. But the All Blacks line out 15 from 18, not great. Japanese are 9 from 9. Clean breaks, 6 to the Japanese, 5 to the ABs. Again, despite having much less ball, but the Japanese knocked it on 13 times to 7. 13 times, almost double the amount of knock-ons when you've got 38% possession is not the best. So, weird game. Individuals, Himeno, man, 52 metres. 2 defenders beaten, 17 from 17 tackles. As I said, the guy is class. Fifita, the winger, 7 defenders beaten, a clean break, 62 metres. He's a big unit as well. But as I said, if he'd taken that opportunity early, maybe things go a little bit differently. Clark has 102 metres, 3 defenders beaten, clean break, gets his try. RTS, 53 metres, 6 defenders beaten, 5 offloads, but 4 from 7 tackles is not the best defensively. Sam Cane is the top All Blacks tackler with 12 from 13. But bit of a scary one for the All Blacks there at the death. And man, credit to the Japanese. These guys lost the series to Australia 2-1, but they pushed the All Blacks right to the final minute. So yeah, good on them. We'll see what happens. The All Blacks have got Wales next, which should be a pretty interesting one. Obviously, they'll have the Barretts and a few other guys back for that one. Japan, I think, have got England in a couple of weeks. So, yeah, man, look out. This Japanese team hasn't beaten a Tier 1 team for a while, but maybe they're not too far away from getting it done. They've certainly been getting a bit more game time recently, which is, I think, kind of much needed. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. What did you think of the game? I think the All Blacks were a bit lucky, especially with that second try. Or did you think they were just a bit rusty? Japan certainly could have nicked it for mine, but you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll let you guys get some. See you later.